Welcome back to Fire Force Anime Review, episode number 32. This is reviewing the newest episode of the anime, which is basically Shadow Cast by Divine Light. And the newest chapters. Yes, chapters. Once again, basically, we have more than one chapter. We have two chapters. Chapter 241, The Guardian's Path, and 242, The Woven Lineage. Okay, now this new episode, unlike last week, which wrapped a chapter and a half, this one wraps 4 chapters. And this mostly put as an episode focused on Joker's backstory. Episode picks up exactly where... Now, mostly put, it's mostly the same as in the manga, which, that's quite something, except they made some changes to it. It wasn't, let's say, massively altered. Oh, no. Not to the point where they cut stuff out. Oh, they do cut one tiny moment out, which I'm kind of glad they did. Like, another moment, they actually do a lot more... show a lot more than they did in the manga. Okay, thing starts off with basically Joker and the God of Destruction from Company 7, where they pretty much finish up where he, even though he got knocked down, he gets back up, beats up a bunch of the priests at the entrance to the Whole Soul Temple, and then they go down to Nether, because they like dark even though it's taboo. They get there and then they do like a flashback to Joker, well, after they meet up with these people, these strange clown outfits. Okay, now this group is apparently the whole Starry Church's assassins. And their leader, oh boy, this man is clearly a pedophile. Oh my gosh. God, they collect like Joker so creepy. So apparently he's very good at sparring, and then he spars with the leader, who beats the crap out of him. And then he sees him play with a watch, which belongs to his parents. Smash it, and he says, "Come to my room, I'll teach you something." And what does he teach him? Apparently, it took time to strip him naked and basically beat him with a horsewhip. I'm like, dude, what is your problem? And then he says, okay, I'm going to basically make you suffer down to the bone. Which means he probably raped him. Like, oh my gosh. Wow. Like, seeing this, like, it's very heavily implied that Joker was raped when he was a kid. That's what's implying here. In the manga, yeah. Like, there's a line in the manga, which I'm kind of glad they didn't make an anime. It says, raise your hips, I'm not finished with you yet. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. I'm kind of glad they added that line to make in the anime, because that would have been absolutely disgusting. It's almost, and apparently it looks like not only Joker is naked, but apparently it looks like his boss is naked too. I'm like, oh good God. Like, yeah, it shows that Joker had a terrible backstory when he was a kid and he got a little bit older. Looks like he's about 5-6 years older, because he's about the height he normally is right now. And apparently, and this has actually never been explained, or him along with Burns saw something and caused both their eyes, so he managed to get away from these clowns, which, by the way, his code name was 52, basically 52 cards. And he basically checks out with the family, briefly, goes out grocery shopping, comes back, seeing these 2 strange men in suits, goes inside and sees the family murdered. Which, by the way, in the manga, this was as graphic as was in the anime. Oh, good gosh. In the anime, they have blood spattered everywhere. Oh my gosh. Wow. And then they come back to present day, and then, of course, Joker starts fighting the leader, and having the captain of Company 7 fight the rest of the goons. It beats him pretty easily, too. The Joker does all of his moves. The fact he's got 53 cards in his deck, not 52. And he's able to basically defeat the former commander by slicing out his arm and eventually chop off his head. And then the episode ends with the confronted by Captain Burt with the Company Captain 7, and Joker confronted by Captain Burns of Company 1. Wow, this is going to be interesting. And the way it looks in the preview, it looks like the next week's episode is going to cover, I would say, the next few chapters of the manga. I mean, this one covered 4 chapters. Covered chapters 125 to 128. They did cut one thing out, which I'm kind of glad they did. Yeah, one point in the fight between Joker and his former commander, where he basically pins down on the ground. They cut out the fact in the manga he actually licked the ground, which that was disgusting. And then he killed his former rapist. Yes. and that's where the episode ends. Well, one way to tell basically that it's gonna be more like 1 or 2 chapters next week is the fact they have this moment where it looks like somebody's pressing someone's breast, and that comes from chapter 130. Well, covers the next few chapters of the manga. So I would say this arc probably wrapped up probably by either next episode or 2 weeks from now, by episode 13, 14. Basically, it'd be like episodes either 37 or 38. Which, by the way, this arc leads into Hajime Industries arc, which that probably would end the season. Either that or probably, I don't know, the standalone story stuff. Alright, now for the 2 newest chapters of the manga. First, Guardian's Path. Chapter starts off basically with Company and Arrow fighting a bunch of Infernos. And then we see the first pillar. Apparently something more Infernos, basically Titans, and of course. And it looks like, though, you have C. Tabaki. She battles a bunch of Infernos. Lieutenant basically blasts him with his frickin' shotgun. So is basically Arrow. Then we have Chidori, I think his name is. He's about to take on Arrow, they use the traitor. And then he starts fighting Ogun. He beats the crap out of him. They fight. By the way, this fight continues in the very next chapter. We see second appears basically being despaired. We see brief flashback. Apparently she was younger. Like, why the heck did she wear a crown over her eyes? How the heck did she freaking see? And guy's like, I'm bringing about the cataclysm. He's like, I'm Fire Soldier. I'm here to stop the cataclysm. And that's what the chapter ends, chapter 41. Woven Length is basically like first seeing Arthur basically just sitting with his sword. And then we see the captain and lieutenant basically fighting the Infernals. And Ogun fighting Kurita, I think his name is. When he's the second pillar's subordinate, and they fight for pretty much the whole chapter, and they have great conversations. Ogun reveals he's actually descendant of the captain of the ship that protected the rebels the first, and apparently reveals, oh yeah, be honest, I want to accompany over Shiro Arthur, and then basically Tabaki is like, Lieutenant. Arthur's like, He's wrong, Arthur. You and Shiro are first pick. And Lieutenant basically, you're more disappointed anyway. We couldn't get Ogun. Hey, do I? Ogun's sure impressive. Original, but I blame you not. Just keep ready, Arthur. We're gonna take Shiro back. And then he goes to his special mode, where it looks like he forms X at his arms, and he continues his fight with Ogun, with the Shinma. And of course, Chapter supposedly looks like he's got killed in a blast. And he says, "Who's next?" I'm like, okay. He says, "That's one. Who's next?" I mean, did he just quote Goldberg? Who's next? Oh my gosh, wow. That was interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's unintentionally be a reference to Goldberg, but what an interesting way to end the chapter. But nonetheless, I give both chapters roughly a 9 out of 10. Great chapters, and can't wait for the next chapter next week, hopefully. Okay? Well, probably coming this week. Okay? So, that's it for the Sick of You, and that's going to be it for this week, because I don't have any more time doing videos tonight. So, tomorrow at 6, hopefully expect videos for Is the Wrong Type of Girls Dungeon, Karen-sama Lover's War, Case Closed, One Piece, Boruto, and Black Clover. Well, there's no Comic Course coming tomorrow, so expect to see hopefully these videos coming tomorrow, okay? See you next video. Bye.